Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, former Attorney General of Missouri, and the first state, by the way, to sue China for all this. But first things first. Yesterday, the Senate finished off with the House finished off with the Senate started. They signed the so-called 3.5 rescue bill. Is this it, Senator?
Well, I doubt it is it, because I think that we're going to need more. And here's what we need to focus on going forward: jobs. We've got 27 million people unemployed. Government shut down the economy in order to deal with this health crisis. We need to get that economy open back up. And to do that, we've got to get people back to work. We've got to get them jobs. So my message to my colleagues is jobs, jobs, jobs. Any future rescue package has got to focus on getting people rehired, supporting the payrolls of business so that workers can get their jobs back and have their wages covered and get back to work.
Phase 3.5 hasn't even been spent yet. They just voted on it yesterday. It's got to go to the president's desk and he has to sign it. But yet Democrats are already calling for another relief package. Listen.
It's not premature. We have to do another package. I'm frankly disappointed that this one is so minimal.
Still shortchanges our states and local government. And so we'll need a bill to try to get there.
There has to be another relief package because this is wholly inadequate. Yes, we have to have another bill quickly, and maybe another one after that.
So do you agree with Mitch McConnell, who says this is not going to happen, not another relief package, unless we're back in session and we can actually legislate this?
Yeah, we do need to get back in session. I think there's no doubt about that. It's time for Congress to come back to work and to be there in person. I also think the Democrats, they have their wish list out, their long laundry list of all their favorite projects and their pet projects and their pork barrel projects. We don't need any of that. We need a laser focus on jobs. We've got to get Americans rehired. We've got to get Americans back to work. We need to give business the support that they need to rehire folks and get open again. So jobs, jobs, jobs. That needs to be the focus going forward.
That's right. And that's why the Congress senator has allocated so much money to get the money back into the hands of Americans. And that's why, over the last week or so, we've heard suddenly Shake Shack gave back $10 million. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is going to give back their money because it turns out they're much bigger. A lot of these companies, I think, just looked at it and thought, OK, could we figure a creative way to do that? And now they're realizing that eventually there's going to be oversight on this. They're just trying to get the money out as quickly as possible. But ultimately, if they applied for it fraudulently or corruptly, people could actually pay big fines and go to prison. Meanwhile, also, Harvard got money. They were going to take it until they weren't. Princeton is going to give back their money. Yale's going to give back their money. I was reading that the University of Notre Dame apparently is thinking about taking some of the money. USC is going to take the money. Penn State. It goes on and on. But you have an idea on how to keep these big universities with the gigantic endowments from getting money from the government.
Yeah, exactly. My view is this. If these universities are sitting on billions of dollars in endowments, billions, they shouldn't be getting taxpayer money unless they're going to spend some of that endowment to actually help their students and sustain their own costs during this crisis. So I've introduced legislation that would cap the amount that colleges and universities can get. If you have an endowment, if the college has an endowment over $10 billion, then they don't get any taxpayer funds. They don't get a taxpayer bailout unless they spend a good portion of that endowment on their students and do it as part of this crisis. It's just common sense. These schools, this is not the time to get greedy, for heaven's sake. We're in a national crisis. This is a national emergency. These schools are these huge endowments. They don't need to be taking taxpayer money.
Yeah, and Notre Dame evidently wants to keep the money because they want to pay it to their students that are economically disadvantaged. Really? That's not what the program's about. Now you're going to do an economic test on all your students to decide what to do with money that we gave a university that they shouldn't have gotten to begin with. And if anybody has a legacy, it's Notre Dame. I don't know if you've seen the movies. But let's go fast forward to where this all started, Wuhan, China. And you said that look at the damage they've done to our country. It's incalculable. We've already spent $5 trillion. You were the first state to sue. I believe Mississippi has followed in your wake. Senator, does this have a chance of actually seeing the light of day, this lawsuit?
Yeah, I think it does. And by the way, Brian, I've introduced legislation to actually change the law and allow every American citizen who has suffered because of the coronavirus from Wuhan, China, to allow them to sue. Usually countries get in our courts what's called sovereign immunity. It just means the country can't be sued. We can change that. with our own laws. And we should tell China they don't get a special immunity in our courts anymore. They've lied to the world. They've unleashed this pandemic on the world, the Beijing government has. They knew what they were doing. They knew that this was going to be a pandemic. They didn't take steps to stop it. They lied. They need to be held accountable.
So when you sue another country, how does that work? Who presides over that? Was there a judge in this case? And how do you, China's not going to cut us a check. So do we just deduct it from what we owe them?
Well, they've got a lot of assets in this country, Ainsley, that courts can go after. And, I suspect the Chinese government won't want their assets taken by courts and by plaintiffs. But, hey, that's fair game. In American law, that's how it works for anybody else. If you've got assets out there and you won't pay, then the court can go after those assets, can freeze them and turn them over to the plaintiffs. So in this case, it would be in a normal court, in a federal court, an American court, and you'd have the normal due process system. The only thing that needs to change for individuals, at least, to be able to sue is that we need to change the law so that China doesn't get this special immunity. And that's why I've introduced legislation to do that. But we've got to hold the Chinese government accountable. They're trying to get out of this now. They're trying to weasel out of it. They're trying to say, oh, American military men started this virus. They brought it to China. That is such an unbelievable bunch of lies. We've got to hold them accountable.
All right. Senator, we started this particular segment talking about what's going on down in Georgia. The president had harsh words about the governor down there, Governor Kemp, because the president feels opening up tattoo parlors today and barbershops and salons, it's just too far because you're supposed to still social distance. You're in Missouri, which a state right in the middle of the country. On the west coast of Missouri, you've got Kansas City. On the east coast of Missouri, you've got St. Louis. Those would be the hot spots for your state. But the rest of the state, for the most part, is rural. What are you hearing from people in Missouri about they want to get back to work?
Oh, there's no doubt that everybody wants to get back to work. I mean, Americans love to work. Missourians want to work. I mean, people they're sick of it and they get back to work. Now, listen. They're also willing, Missourians are, to do their part to bend the curve and to break the back of this epidemic. And Missourians have been doing a heck of a job at doing that. My own view on this whole reopening piece is that we've got to allow regional leaders to make the decisions that are right for their regions. Because, even within the state of Missouri, what's good for the southwest part of the state, which is where I live, where I am now, is different than what's good for the major urban areas. So we've got to give local leaders the flexibility. But we've got to allow people to get back to work, and we've got to help them get their jobs back. And so I come back again to the fact that any further action taken by Congress has to be laser focused on jobs. Let's get people working again.
Right. What is the timeline for Missouri? Is it May 1st? And then, and if so, what businesses go online first?
It's May 3rd, actually, Missouri, which is a Sunday, I think, Brian. And under the state order, all of the restrictions are lifted on that date. And then in our state, local governments and counties can make their own decisions then if they want to extend the stay-at-home order. So they get to do it county by county, city by city. I think that's a great approach. Again, give regional leaders the flexibility to know what's good for their regions. In a lot of parts of my state, we don't have the coronavirus, or its presence is very, very minimal. And listen, we've got to continue to take steps to protect at-risk, vulnerable populations, folks we know are especially at risk, the elderly, those with underlying health conditions. So we can do all of that. We can make the decision based on the data, based on the science, but let's give folks the flexibility to do that.
Okay, Senator, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Have a good weekend and stay safe. Thank you.